The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter. President Donald Trump is holding his own after yesterday's developments in two courts which saw the conviction of his former campaign chair Paul Manafort, convicted on 8 counts and risk a jail term of 80 years. And as if that wasn't earth-shattering, Michael Cohen, the fixer and legal whiz kid for President Trump, pleaded guilty on 5 counts from bank fraud to campaign money and hush money payments. Hello and welcome to Politics with GA. It seems the president's men would each get their day in court, and as this unravels, the institution of the presidency is again being tested like it was with Watergate and the resignation of President Richard Nixon, the Monica Lewinsky affair, and the impeachment proceedings against President Bill Clinton for high crimes and misdemeanors. But the question is, with Congress being controlled by the Republicans, will it inch towards the impeachment of President Donald Trump? The outcome of both court proceedings raises grave questions about Trump's mortality and his ability to comprehend the consequences of his actions. The cases arose from special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Tuesday's events represent a significant victory for Mueller, who has been under pressure from Trump supporters to wind up what the president calls a witch hunt.
Paul Manafort's a good man. He was with Ronald Reagan. He was with a lot of different people over the years, and I feel very sad about that. It doesn't involve me, but I still feel, it's a very sad thing that happens. This has nothing to do with Russian collusion. This started as Russian collusion. This has absolutely nothing to do. This is a witch hunt, and it's a disgrace. But this has nothing to do what they started out looking for Russians involved in our campaign. There were none. I feel very badly for Paul Manafort. Again, he worked for Bob Dole, he worked for Ronald Reagan, he worked for many, many people. And this is the way it ends up. And it was not the original mission, believe me. It was something very much different. So, had nothing to do with Russian collusion. We continue the witch hunt. Thank you very much.
In New York, Michael Cohen claimed President Trump directed him to make payments that violated campaign finance laws in an effort to stop Stormy Daniels, a pornographic film actor, and Karen McDougal, the former Playboy model, going public about alleged extramarital affairs. In entering the plea, Michael Cohen did not name the two women, nor did he name President Trump. Lanny Davis, Cohen's lawyer, asked in a tweet if those payments were a crime for Michael Cohen, then why wouldn't they be a crime for Donald Trump? Whether or not the president can be persecuted remains a matter of legal dispute. Trump has denied any knowledge of the payments at the time they were made. The disclosure was made as Michael Cohen, once loyal to President Trump, pleaded guilty to bank fraud, tax fraud, and campaign violations in a deal reached with federal prosecutors. He could get about 4 to 5 years in prison at sentencing on the 12th of December. Lanny Davis, Michael Cohen's lawyer, said on Tuesday night that Mr. Cohen was open to talking to Robert Mueller for his investigation, telling MSNBC Mr. Cohen has knowledge on certain subjects that should be of interest to the special counsel and is more than happy to tell the special counsel all that he knows. He told MSNBC MSNBC that Mr. Michael Cohen had knowledge of the obvious possibility of a conspiracy to collude and corrupt the American democratic system in the 2016 elections, as well as knowledge about the computer crime of hacking and whether or not Mr. Trump knew ahead of time about that crime. Meanwhile, in Alexandria, Virginia, after the fourth day of jury deliberation, Paul Manafort was found guilty of bank fraud, tax fraud, and failure to report a foreign bank account. The charges carry a maximum sentence of decades in prison. He avoided conviction on some charges, however, with the jury saying it could not reach a consensus on 10 out of 18 total counts. Paul Manafort faces additional charges in a separate case to convene in Washington, D.C. next month. In Charleston, West Virginia, arriving for a rally on Tuesday night, President Donald Trump told reporters, "This has nothing to do with the Russian collusion. These are witch hunts and it's a disgrace." Despite his conviction on federal charges, President Trump called Paul Manafort a good man, adding that he was with Ronald Reagan and he was with a lot of good people. Rudy Giuliani, a lawyer for President Donald Trump, told reporters there had been no allegation or any wrongdoing against the president in the charges against Michael Cohen. In any case, Mr. Trump is unlikely to face criminal charges as long as he remains president, legal experts have said. What is conceivable is that he could be sacked by Congress under the United States Constitution's provision for impeaching a president over high crimes and misdemeanors. But for that to happen, Mr. Trump's opponent in the Democratic Party would have to win control of both houses, and no United States president has ever been removed from office on the basis of impeachment. Interesting turn of events and the unraveling of the institution of the presidency under POTUS 45. Has he been trumped? Will he go the way of Richard Nixon and resign? Happy Eid al-Kabir to all. And as part of celebrations, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari prayed for bumper harvest and food security in Nigeria. President Buhari said the prayers as he joined the Muslim faithful at the Kofa Arawa Eid ground in his hometown of Daura in Katsina State to observe the Eid al-Kabir prayers. After the prayers, the president walked back to his residence some 800 meters from the prayer ground and slaughtered the symbolic ram as a crowd of his supporters cheered him on. He also hosted members of the National Youth Service Corps, where he reaffirmed his support for the scheme established in 1973. The president, in his Salah message, asked all Nigerians to rise above personal, group, sectarian, and other interests and to promote harmony and tolerance at all times. He also appealed to all Muslims to use the occasion of Eid for somber reflection and self-examination and to strive to be good ambassadors of the religion by upholding high moral values. Remember the part where I said the president walked back to his residence some 800 meters from the prayer ground? Yes, it's political season, so anything these days can be used as political capital. And that's exactly what the senior special assistant to Mr. President on media and publicity did. Mr. Garba Shehu declared Mr. President fit to face the rigors of next year's presidential contest slated for February, citing the president's 800-meter walk from the prayer ground to his residence as evidence of his clean slate of health. So here I am, just thinking out loud. So if trekking equals ability to govern, wouldn't the same apply to the man who trekked from Lagos to Abuja to celebrate President Buhari's victory in 2015 polls? Wouldn't he be the best candidate for the job? Did I hear someone say the level of political discourse in Nigeria is pedestrian? Absolutely, no pun intended. The Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association on Tuesday warned the president of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, to resign his position immediately or be forced to do so. This is quite interesting coming from a Cattle Breeders Association. What's the correlation with cattle and politics? Isn't this the same group that has been accused of being a threat to security of the country, prompting former President Yakubu Gowon to call for the arrest of the leadership of Miyetti Allah for threatening and condoning violence. A while ago, I spoke to retired Colonel Francis Okosun about the level of security in the country in preparations for the 2019 general elections and other issues. Thanks for joining us in Politics with GA, Colonel Francis Okosun. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much.
We've continued to witness growing restiveness in Nigeria as we approach an election year. How adequate do you think our security apparatus is in containing internal crises, the likes of the former herder clash and the resurgence of the Boko Haram terrorists?
You see, because we are unable to project what the pattern of threats, unrests and disturbances could be, it's ambitious to sit and say, yes, we are prepared, or to say we can take on whatever presents itself.
But we've seen a method, a type, it's asymmetrical, it's not your conventional type of warfare. They hit soft targets, and this has been going on for years. Can we not plan with what we've witnessed so far?
Oh, then I didn't get you. I thought you were asking about the preparation towards the elections.
No, preparation to deal with internal crisis as we approach
I'm saying,
election season.
And I'm saying yes. Well, you don't have a prognostic view about crisis. You'd do a threat analysis based on which you program and fashion a counter. Now, if you're asking how well those in authority or those in charge are working towards this, I would assume that anybody who is earning their pay would do a necessary and a desired threat analysis pursuant to keeping the peace.
Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari says we're in a post-crisis situation, that it's just mop-up activities and all of that, and then that the threat of Boko Haram has been significantly degraded. They're not holding territory like they used to in the height of the insurgency between 2013 and 2015. But we've seen attacks in Zamfara State recently and other parts of the country. How best do you think we can arrest this situation?
Let me say something here. Before 2015, a very significant swath of territory, 20,000 square kilometers in the northeast, was under the control of the Boko Haram elements. Now, civil authority was not established in those areas. A lot of people moved out of their places of abode for reasons one cannot begin to raise here. However, when this regime came in, and mind you, I'm not a follower of the regime. You don't
hold in brief for them.
I don't hold brief for them. When they came, somehow they were able to push back these elements to the extent that civil administration was established in Taraba, in Adamawa, in Yobe, and in Borno. So to that extent, you would grant anybody who beats their chest that they have significantly degraded. Yes, to the extent that you're not having blasts in Nyanya and United Nations building or any such like thing as we had in at the police headquarters. So to that extent, they can justifiably claim to have significantly dealt with the insurgency. But mind you, I think a lot of people don't understand what insurgency is all about. Insurgency is not a cut and nail dry thing. It's not a thing. It's not conventional. So you cannot deal with anybody who thinks they can deal with it the way that people expect it will be wrong. See, are you asking if they have significantly dealt with Boko Haram? I would say yes. The freedom of action has been curtailed. They are unable to seize territories as they used to do, pitch battle against forces, our forces as they used to do, but they would resort to what they are doing now.
Hitting soft targets.
Absolutely. Carry out ambushes, raids, strike, and They don't strike and stand the ground to fight. Neither do they hold ground. They don't hold ground. And these are basic elements in warfare. You fight, it's either you are advancing to contact with the enemy, or you are in a firefight, or you are in a defensive position.
Well, the constitutional responsibility of any government is to protect its people. So regardless of their methods, regardless of the degrading of Boko Haram, we do not want to see headlines saying X number of Nigerians have been killed.
Oh, yes.
What can we do to put that to a,
let me say
an
that.
end?
Let me say that I am pained when kids are left back in the army, draw fire, take casualties, are killed or maimed. I am pained. But it is in the nature of conflict and warfare for you to have casualties. Then with all the technology and with all the mightiness of the United States, there was a 9/11, wasn't there? Who would have expected, who would have thought that human beings would take aeroplanes and fly them into buildings? So that's it. The terrorist is one step ahead of you. You react to the terrorist. You cannot be preemptive. That is the truth.
Okay, there's been a lot of call for the police is the constitutionally empowered body to protect life and property as enshrined in the Nigerian constitution. Yet there are issues for the call for state police is waxing strong when we see that they're not, they don't have the numbers, they don't have the local intelligence of the area. Do you agree with the call for the creation of state police?
When people talk about the state police, they make it sound as though it is something novel. It's not novel. I grew up as a kid to know that there was a local government police in the West. There was a native authority in the North. I don't know what assessment people have made today to now think that if we have the state police, that all the problems we have will be gone.
They say, for example, that a state governor shouldn't even be called the chief executive of the state because the commissioner can't take directives from him. He has to take directives from the Inspector General of Police in Abuja, so the chain of command. But if there was state police, he could order police formations to move and take care of trouble spots.
Yes, these are cosmetic. I'll ask a question. People should consider what it takes to set up a police force or a police service. I come from a place where you don't require, you require not less than 100 to 150 men. I mean, the strength of 150 men, policemen, or men to police that local government. To kit a policeman in full service marching order, equipment, uniform, rifle, and so on, won't cost you anything less than $5,000. So multiply.
One policeman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So multiply that by, say, a place like Yaba local government, where you require over 1,000. And now take this to a state like Osun, a state that is incapable of paying routine salaries, a state that I am told they pay half salary to some grade of workers, or for that matter, any other state in Nigeria. So how do they expect to fund a police service? I think it's cosmetic. Do we require police at the local government? Yes, we do. Can we? I don't think we can. That is the truth.
So how do we take care of crime?
Okay, you see, the police force as we have it today is one that is in dire need of a rejig. You need to rebrand it. You need to reorientate the Nigeria police. I dare say that the Nigeria police is an organization where hierarchy has completely collapsed. So, what do you need? Look, you say police service is an organization where a superior condescends to the extent of collecting bribe money from a subordinate. You can't call that an organized or disciplined body. So how do you discipline such human beings? How can such a police force or service be efficient? We have got to address so many things about the current Nigeria Police Service for it to be effective. Look, have you been to the police college at Ikeja? Go see the condition under which you produce policemen. You see, the policeman is not properly inducted from training. The induction is
So the foundation is
faulty. It's faulty. If it's not properly inducted, then the man is not going to serve you. So it's not so much the issue of a state police. Okay, the state police that you're going to set up, where are you going to train them? Who are going to train them? Still the same elements that have trained the current Nigeria police men. They're not going to come from outer space. So, first of all, really, if you ask me, clear the entire hierarchy of the police.
I mean, Michael Saakashvili did that in Georgia.
Yes.
A few years ago.
Yes. So you see, if you want to take a look at the police force and reorient it and rejig it, reposition it, it's a thing that will take the better part of 15 years.
Now, as we approach the 2019 elections, we've seen kidnapping on the increase, a certain number of politically motivated crimes on the increase, thuggery, and violence of sorts. We've often had staggered elections in places like Ekiti, Osun, and a few other places where we can have what they term militarization of elections. They send 40,000. I was in Ekiti State. 40,000 40,000 security operators were deployed. But it's a general election. I don't think the Nigerian police has that strength to have that number around the country. So what's the best approach to ensuring safety of Nigerians as towards the build-up towards 2019 elections and during the election and post-election period?
Truth be told, tell the politicians to behave themselves. The reason why you have disturbance to peace is because the politicians fuel this. They are the midwives. The man who desires to take up an office that he is not in the least qualified for, the man who decides to play under the table to secure nomination, the man who would enlist thugs and arm them, is the one who is creating a situation where you have to have armed men to counter such possibilities. If the politicians will play by the rule, you can, like they do in Ghana, go to vote and go back to your workplace.
It's afterwards a civil exercise.
We're
not at war.
It is the politicians. You don't need to have soldiers come out to monitor elections. But you know, that's the situation we have found ourselves. I can tell you something. Now look at the show of shame at the National Assembly, for example. Then I'm scandalized by the quality of human beings you have in every single level of parliament, local, state, and federal. These are a pack of human beings who, to put it mildly, could have done better. If they do better, we'll have less need for force on election days. So to go to your question more directly, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. But I want to believe that where you have technology deployed, like you have the card reader and stuff, biometrics and all that, you can reduce incidents of rigging and therefore incidents of disagreements, thuggery, and the like. So that I think is the way to go about it.
Finally, Colonel, INEC has just presented a budget to the National Assembly Committee for Security, amongst other requests. What should be the focus of security practitioners as we go to the polls through the campaign season period?
Okay. You see, I would say as a professional security practitioner, if there was no threat to security, I'll be out of job. There'll be no payday for me. But the truth is that, I'll repeat, it bears repeating, that if the politicians will play by the rule, there'll be no need for anybody to be apprehensive. We are apprehensive, and I can assure you that the privileged Nigerians have made all plans, they have made their plans, how to fly out of this country before elections. just so they won't be caught in the imbroglio if it does come up. So what should we do? Politicians here again, and Nigerians who are so gullible, who would allow themselves to be used by politicians who don't care for them after elections. I mean, they use you and dump you. So people realize, they recognize and realize this, and there'll be no need for it. But I say again, prevention is better than cure. That's it.
Thank you very much, Colonel Francis.
Thank you so much.
Okosun. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. A very, very, very important message here. A former Nigerian military head of state, General Abdulsalam Abubakar, has advised people in leadership positions to stop infighting and face the real business of governance. General Abubakar said Nigerian leaders must rise up to the challenges of good governance and make lives better for the people rather than engage in fights that have no meaning to the electorate who gave them their mandate in the first place. The former head of state, who made this known on Tuesday after he joined thousands of Muslim faithful to observe prayers at the Mina praying ground to mark this year's celebration of Eid, maintained that what Nigerians needed from their leaders was good governance and not infighting. He said the common man has nothing to gain from the current tussle amongst political leaders in the country. What the people want is good governance and not what is going on now amongst the politicians. I don't think it's in the interest of the people. The primary responsibility of the leaders is to find solutions to the problems faced by the citizens. General Abdulsalami therefore urged political leaders to come together and think about what good for the country and the citizens they will do. The essence of political office is to serve people. Thank you very much, General Abdulsalami Abubakar. Those who have ears, let them hear. And finally, in Zimbabwe, it's not yet Uhuru for the crocodile, as the Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa is fondly called. Zimbabwe's Constitutional Court today will hear an opposition petition seeking to overturn the presidential election result, in a likely challenge seen as unlikely to succeed despite allegations of vote fraud. The Movement for Democratic Change, MDC, has accused the ZANU-PF party and the Election Commission of rigging the July 30th vote, Zimbabwe's first poll since the ousting of Robert Mugabe last year. Mugabe's successor, Emmerson Mnangagwa, won with 50.8% of the vote, enough to avoid a runoff against MDC's Nelson Chamisa, who scored 44.3%. President Mnangagwa has vowed to turn Zimbabwe's ruined economy around and hope the elections will draw a line under Mugabe's repressive 37-year rule. Thanks for watching Politics with GA. Until next time, I'm Benga Aborowa. The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter.